fully immersed to the book. Our brains deform network correctly calms down, says Judd Brewer, a psychiatrist who directs research at Brown University's Mindfulness Center. That's what our brain agency that's active when we are not doing anything else and can get observed in worry and rumination. Is it help to be desperate? By Derek Service. I always felt to be best and never be desperate. Confidence comes from knowing you have many options. But reading the order by Author Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin, it was clear his entire career was driven by self-created desperation. He would always sweet-talk the bank into giving him a large loan to take on an ambitious new venture. That is deep in that past the final level, always the brink of getting repossessed. And you that do it by the desperation to take an even more ambitious gamble, somehow coming out ahead, just enough to pay off the loan. Now do it again with something even more ambitious. Here's some examples. When he was only 21, running Virgin Records and Tapes, his little record shop on Auburn Hill, he thought was rock star needed was a big, comfortable hut in country where a band could come and stay for weeks at a time and record whenever you feel like. So he drove on the countryside looking at us, found a 15-bedroom man that in Denmark a long time, and was able to make a great deal for £30,000. He had no money himself, but borrowed a little from his family, then showed back his businesses and got a loan. He turned into a successful recording studio. So here I'm reading this, impressed but confused. I'm frugal. I avoid that. I save most my income. I never spend more than I earn. Because of this, I'm comfortable. They list the wrong approach. Could it actually help to be desperate? Could that drive us to new heights of necessity? On the other hand, how do all think smart people do dumb things when desperate, like signing bad deals or stealing? I don't know the answer. Do you have an idea? Or gather some ideas for the comment and share the creative answer to this tomorrow. ABA by Louise Arthur. Let the body kill them the risk tag, force them the dreaming youth. The stage to find and make his own wisdom, virtue, and truth. Life was a sport, competitionless. He studied politics by French reformer of castrate, philosopher state. Christ face massacre and determined life for gospel sweet. Later on Pythagorean wanted to disciple me. When nobody is in his breath, with burns from short view. Eager to listen, learn and take the love and all the good. Power and place, silver and gold, and neither ask nor sought, only to serve his fellow men, with heart and word and thought. A pilgrim still, but in this time, no sense to frighten nor but wisdom, morals, piety, to teach, to warn, and bless. The world passed by, now care to take, the treasure we could give. A party set, content to live, and beautiful live. Unsaddened by long, lonely years, of one neglect and wrong, he soared to him, the kingdom that was serene and strong. Magnanimous and pure his life, tranquil his happy end. Patience and peace and happy word, death and mortal friend. From him no monuments to rise, no laurels make his poor. The memory of the gold and wise outshines, outlived more. After 95 years, writers finally get a green light to lift from the Great Gatsby. Lord, a great artist of foreign classic work, even decades after the original author's death, chilled radical culture. But Alan was speaking. The Daisy Avenue town? What happened to Nat? A trader from New York. How to J. Gatsby muscle into the roaring underworld to make his little fortune? Was it just maybe a vampire. At the stroke of midnight on January 1st, writer and underdogs got a green light to imagine their own answers to those questions, and to use the character created by F. Scott Fitzgerald in his 1925 novel, Preguess without asking for anyone's permission. On cue, an avalanche of gasoline knockouts, cripples, and years retelling with a vampire hit market, along with the new editions of original jazzy age novel itself. But its welcome as out for pattern creativities is also a reminder that the 95-year waiting period exact cost on American culture. Restrictive U.S. copyright laws locked The Great Gatsby out of public domain for so long that the best moment for reworking of the iconic novel may already come and gone. This Gerald story is a still beloved classic, of course, and some of its themes, social, classism, lost love, are timeless. But nearly a century after publication, it's also an object of fading time that's in great mode to experience of many readers who may read now as mostly has customer drama, of course have in double tuxedo.
写完了。
好，口算。
Very easy。你这是去写到第几页？30页吗？
对啊。
Jump
into was phrasing. It was day 27 on my first 40-day counter challenge, and we were driving in cold water. We knew what would be shockingly cold, because we jumped into the past 26 days. We really didn't want to do it, but were committed to this. And then I invited myself to a mindset shift. Can I bring curiosity to this moment? This moment I have already judged this bad. This experience I've already put into a fixed box of hell no. Could I instead let go of my fixed ideas and judge bring curiosity? What is this moment like when I draw my judgments, fixed views, preconceived notions? It becomes much more open, much more filled with possibility. From this possibility, I wondered if there's something to savor right now. Is there anything I can enjoy, appreciate, find secret and beautiful? I found a lot to savor. The chilly air, the intensely blue sky and the low-lying soft clouds, the quiet neighborhood with the planes flying overhead and the birds calling out to us. I saved this moment of chatting with my sons, this day of being fully alive and able to do meaningful work with others, this day of having loved ones here and scattered elsewhere who I care deeply about. I found a lot to savor, and suddenly this became a moment to freedom and love. I jumped in and found the divine. A Sensible Purchase Price by Warren Buffett. There are 4 building blocks that add value to Berkshire. 1. Sizable standalone acquisitions. 2. Bolt-on acquisitions that fit with the business we already own. 3. Internal sales growth and margin improvement at our many very businesses. And 4. Investment for my huge portfolio of stocks and bonds. In this section, we'll review 2017 acquisition activity. In our search for new standalone businesses, the key qualities we seek are durable competitive strengths, able and high-grade management, good returns and net tangible assets required to operate the business, opportunities for internal growth and returns, and finally, a sensible purchase price. That last 4 requirement proved the barrier to virtually all deals reviewed in 2017, as the prices for decent but far from spectacular business hit an all-time high. Indeed, price seemed almost irrelevant to army optimists. Why the purchase frenzy? In part, is because the CEO job self-selects for can-do types. If Wall Street analysts or board members urge that one CEO to consider possible acquisitions, it's a bit like telling your ripening teenager to be sure of a normal sex life. Once the CEO hungers for a deal, he or she will never lack for forecasts that justify purchase. So boldness for cheering and visiting large domains and compensation levels typically increase what called size. Investment like smelling huge fees or be applauding as well. Don't ask the barber with unique haircut. If the historical performance or target fall short of validating acquisition, large synergies will be forecast. Splurges will never disappoint. By Juric Conscious. I was determined not to be one of those people who didn't accomplish anything during the pandemic. So I got rid of 44 boxes of stuff. Like losing weight, it was hard work, but I did it slowly and mindfully. It feels really great to have the tower boxes down, and the process of the moments of pure joy and laughs during a really lousy time. I frequently read articles about decluttering, Marie Kondo, British veteran, and professional organizers. A cheerleader for letting stuff go. I even started something called Declutter Sunday on Facebook. Or friends posted an item to the jettison. But my overstuffed attic has been my dirty little secret. I'm not a slob. My little 1937 colonial house is organized in but the closet is small. Over the days, masses of stuff came into the house, but very little left. Entering the attic, which became the dumping ground for all the excess. Stuff room and much like everyone else, I catch the plan. My husband, who is very sentimental and fond of keeping things, agreed that we need to take action. Initially suggested renting a pod and getting Moore to bring every single item down, so we could then go through it at our leisure. Each side for 22 weeks, I went up to the attic, digitally organizing, and ended up with 2 boxes rolled back that we shall shrug down to the gas chute. We then have to 1 week to either throw the items away or find a new home. Nothing was to go back in the attic. Each member of the family was allotted 1 large rubber tub labeled archives, where they can put anything they couldn't part with. No judgment. Signs of a Wave Capture System by Steve Pavlina. A common sign that they do have a weak or underutilized system for capturing, organizing your tasks and projects is that you are trying to use something non-system as substitute. This includes bad habits such as these. Leaving emails sitting in your inbox after you read them the first time. Using any messaging app to remember some to-do items. Using multiple apps to capture tasks. Not being assured with each bot to send your tasks to. Worrying about tasks through the cracks. Rely on your human memory to keep reminding yourself about tasks you need to attend to. A Go system has at most 2 inboxes, 1 digital inbox and 1 paper inbox. A Go system has 1 calendar for keeping track of your time-based commitments. You can also set to a proactive reminder your appointment when necessary, so you don't have to rely on your memory or constantly looking at the clock for that. Your email inbox is linked to kind of project management system, not with a web browser. A Go system doesn't show you reminders of your to-dos except you need to see them. It doesn't distract you by showing you the same unprocessed email every time you check your. Not having a capture system is a problem worth solving. Consider that if you don't solve a soon,
你能去那个啥去不？去摸那个电脑屋里面去读，我受有点影响了。
That will absolutely drag down the results you are able to create and the quality of life you are able to enjoy. You can solve this problem permanently. You can live in the past so that it never plague you again. Give the gods a perfect day, or whereon shall no man work, but work play. Whereon it is enough for me, not to be doing, but to be. Through every fiber of my brain, through every nerve, through every vein, I feel the electric thrill, that touch of life that seems almost too much. I hear the wind among the trees, playing celestial symphonies. I see the branches downward bent, I keys of some great instrument, and over me unrolls on high the splendid scenery of the sky, where through a sapphire seas the sun sails like a golden galleon. Toward yonder cloudland in the west, toward yonder islands of the blessed, whose steep sierra for afar lifts its craggy sums, white with drifts. Below winds and wafts through all the rooms the snowflakes of the cherry blooms. Below winds and bends with one rich the fiery blossoms of the peach. All life and love, all happy throng of thoughts soul's only spirited song. O heart of man, canst thou not be blind as the areas and as free? What is the Chinese New Year story? Why the Spring Festival is so important? Chinese New Year marks the beginning of a new lunar year and is a time for family for celebration. This is the story behind many Chinese New Year traditions by Daisy Naylor. Chinese New Year, also known as the Spring Festival, marks the end of lunar year and the start of a new one. It is associated with various myths and legends, with many traditions and superstitions rooted in old story and folklore. Many traditional Chinese New Year celebrations, for example, can be traced back to ancient story. What is the Chinese New Year story? According to legend, there's one monster. 还有8分钟，我就读完了。But at the end of the lunar year, it comes ashore to terrorize villagers, to destroying property and eating any livestock or children that it could find. To hide this terrible monster, people will treat the mountains every New Year's Eve. One year, as they were boarding their windows and packing their belongings, a strange old man wandered into the village. He was greeted by an elderly woman who told them about Nian and urged them to come with the villagers to safety of the mountains. The owner refused to go, and instead told the woman that if she let him spend the night in her home, he would get rid of Nian for good. The Simple Path to Wealth by Jill Collins. Chapter 1. Introduction. This book grew out on my blog, www.jlcollinsnh.com. The blog, in turn, grew out of a series of letters I had begun to write to my then teenage daughter. These letters concern various things, mostly about money and investing. She was not yet quite ready to hear. He thinks money is the single most powerful tool we have for navigating this complex world we've created. Understanding it is critical. If you choose to master, money becomes a wonderful servant. If you don't, it will surely master you. But Dad, my little girl once said to me, I know money is important. I just want to spend my life thinking about it. For me, this was eye-opening. I love this stuff, but most people have better things to do with their precious time. Think about money. They have bridges built, diseases to cure, treaties to negotiate, mountains to climb, technology to create, children to teach, businesses to open and build. Unfortunately, this benign neglect of things financial leaves you open to the charlatans of the financial world, the people who make investing and listing complex, because if it can be made complex, it becomes more profitable for them, more expensive for us, and we are forced into their waiting arms. Here's an important truth. Complex investment exists only to profit those sell them. Further, not only are they more costly to the investor, they are less effective. Jeff Bezos to step down as Amazon chief executive. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos is to step down as chief executive of the e-commerce giant that is starting in his garage nearly 30 years ago. He will become executive chairman, A move he said will give him time and energy to focus on. Mr. Bezos, who has a fortune of almost $200 billion, will be replaced by Andy Jassy, who currently leads Amazon's cloud computing. The change will take place in the second half 2021, the company said. Being the CEO of Amazon is a deeper responsibility and is consuming. When you have a respond like that, it's hard to put attention on anything else, Bezos said in the latest Amazon staff on Tuesday. As executive chair, I will stay engaged on important initiatives, but also have the time and energy I need to focus on the Day One Fund, the Bezos Earth Fund, Blue Origin, the Washington Post, and my other passions. I've never had more energy, and this isn't retiring. I'm super passionate about the impact I think this organization can have, he added. Mr. Bezos, 57, has led Amazon since it started as an online bookstore in 1994. The firm now employs 1.3 million people globally and has turned in everything package delivery and stream video to cloud services and data advertising. What is life all about? Self-exploration is good for the soul. By Michael O'Donnell. Soul isn't what most expect from a big studio and a mid-movie for kids, but Pixar's success afforded this freedom to try new things, including exploring to all these questions. I think a lot of us fall into that idea of just find your passion, do what you love, and everything else will fall into place. And I came to a point where I'm like, not everything is coming to place. I'm not happy and content all the time. Just of doing animation, said sole director and co-writer P. Docter, a two-time Oscar winner. What's life about, and what I'm meant to be doing? The film was really investigation into that. Soul's main character, Joe, voiced by Jamie Foxx, is a frustrated jazz musician turned teacher about to get his big break at a club when he unexpectedly dies. He struggled to return to his life, accompanied by a kind of baby soul, voiced by Tina Fey, to fulfill what he sees as purpose from the story. As Doctor says, Soul is not concerned with the religious dogma, but was being present and alive right now, which makes a highly improvisational art of jazz on the prop scene. It helped considerably that co-writer Camp Powers used to cover jazz as a journalist, but there's no replacement for lived experience. Doctor refers to the opening scene and which Joe conveys to students how he fell in love with jazz when their father took him to the club. Where that came from was me asking John Batiste, who played the music, describe to me a moment like this, and I almost literally transcribed what he said and put it in the film. 10 years of experience in 1 hour by Derek Service. From 1998 to 2008, I had this wild experience of starting a little hobby, accidentally growing into a big business, and in selling it for $22 million. So now, people want to hear my thoughts. People ask me about that experience, so I tell stories about how it went for me. Many of them are about all the things I did wrong. I made some horrible mistakes. People ask my advice on how to approach situations in their lives or businesses, so I explain how I approach things. But my approach is just one way. They argue against it as well. I'm not really suggesting that I should be like me. I'm pretty unusual. So what works for me might not work for others, but enough people that my stories and the philosophies I developed from this experience are worth sharing. So here we are. This is most of what I learned in 10 years, compacted into something you can read in an hour. I hope you find these ideas useful for your own life business. I also hope you disagree with some of them. Then I hope you email me to tell me about your different point of view, because that's my favorite part of all. I'm a student, not a guru.